In a galaxy teeming with life, 4 alien empires reigned supreme, each ruled by a princess embodying their species' strengths and pride. They often gathered in secret council to discuss matters of universal importance, though more often than not, their meetings devolved into a competition of wit and ego. Their favorite subject of mockery? Earth, its inhabitants, their primitive technology, and their endless squabbles. Princess Lurilia of the Zithari, a race of crystalline beings who shimmered with inner light, found humanity's fragility amusing. "They break so easily," she would say, her laughter ringing like chimes. "Barely a century of space travel, and they think they're explorers." Beside her, Princess Ryvala of the Vierzon, a towering serpentine species with venomous fangs and unmatched strength, hissed her agreement. "Their warriors are pathetic. No claws, no venom, no strength. It's a wonder they've survived this long." The third princess, Kareth of the Alorans, an aquatic race known for their psychic abilities, often joined in with telepathic laughter. "Their minds are like open books, so easy to manipulate. They are nothing but children playing in the void." Lastly, there was Princess Elaris of the Zephyrians, ethereal beings with wings of stardust and mastery of the winds. Her voice was like a song as she added, "Even their dreams are small. They aim for their nearest planets while we shape galaxies." For years, they dismissed Earth as insignificant. But the galaxy is vast, and fate unpredictable. It began when an ancient artifact, long thought lost, emerged on a forgotten world. The Crown of Dominion, a relic said to grant its bearer absolute authority over those bound to it, became the center of attention. When it activated unexpectedly, the artifact sent out a signal, summoning not only the princesses but also a human warrior. Commander Erik Kane was no ordinary soldier. A veteran of countless skirmishes, he was a man forged in fire. Though his planet was underestimated, he carried the weight of humanity's resilience and ingenuity. He was patrolling a distant outpost when the artifact signal reached him, and, against all logic, it drew him in. The 4 princesses arrived at the artifact's location first, expecting a grand contest among themselves to claim it. They were rivals but shared an unspoken understanding. No one else could be allowed to wield such power, especially not a lesser being. But as Erik approached, something extraordinary happened. The artifact flared to life, its energies swirling around him. Before any of them could react, it bonded to him, marking him as its rightful inheritor. The princesses were stunned, their laughter replaced by disbelief. The Crown of Dominion had chosen a human? What trickery is this? Ryvala snarled, her coils tightening in fury. This creature cannot wield such a relic. Lurilia's crystalline form glowed with agitation. The crown recognizes no strength in him. It must be broken. Kareth's psychic voice was sharp. He cannot comprehend what he has taken. Elaris, who had always been the most composed, narrowed her starlit eyes. Perhaps there is more to him than meets the eye. The artifact's bond was absolute. By its ancient laws, the princesses were now bound to Erik, not as slaves, but as allies sworn to his cause. For the first time in their lives, their pride and autonomy were challenged. Erik, however, wanted no part of their royal disputes. "I didn't ask for this," he said firmly. "I don't want your empires or your wars." But the artifact had other plans. Through it, Erik glimpsed a looming threat, a shadow rising on the edge of the galaxy, powerful enough to consume all in its path. It became clear that their bond was not a curse but a necessity. Reluctantly, the princesses accepted their new reality, though their resentment simmered beneath the surface. Erik found himself thrust into a world of intrigue and danger. Each princess brought her unique strengths to their uneasy alliance. Lurilia's crystalline body could refract and amplify energy, making her a living weapon. Ryvala's physical prowess was unmatched, capable of tearing through enemies with ease. Kareth's psychic abilities allowed her to sense threats and manipulate minds, while Elaris could control the winds and navigate the most treacherous cosmic storms. But their personalities often clashed. Lurilia's arrogance grated on Erik, who refused to bow to her self-proclaimed superiority. Ryvala tested his patience with her constant challenges to his authority. Kareth's cryptic nature made her difficult to trust, and Elaris's aloofness left him questioning her motives. Yet, as they faced danger together, A fragile camaraderie began to form. Their first test came when they encountered a fleet of marauders sent by the shadowy force Erik had seen in his visions. The battle was fierce, and for the first time, the princesses saw the humans' true strength, not in physical prowess but in his strategy and determination. Erik coordinated their abilities with precision, turning what could have been a disaster into a decisive victory. "You fight like a Vierzon," Ryvala admitted grudgingly after the battle. It was the closest she had come to a compliment. As they journeyed deeper into the galaxy, they uncovered the truth about the shadowy threat, an ancient race known as the Umbraxus, beings of pure darkness that consumed light and life. The Umbraxus had destroyed countless civilizations, and now they were coming for the galaxy's heart. The princesses began to see Erik not as a usurper but as a leader. His humanity, the very thing they had mocked, proved to be his greatest strength. He inspired them to think beyond their own empires and to fight for something greater. Over time, their bond deepened. Lurilia learned humility, Ryvala tempered her aggression, Kareth opened herself to trust, and Elaris found hope in Erik's vision of unity. Together, they rallied their forces, uniting species that had been enemies for centuries. The final battle against the Umbraxus was a spectacle of light and shadow, a clash of wills and powers. Erik stood at the center, the artifact glowing with the combined strength of his allies. In the end, it was not power alone that defeated the Umbraxus but the unity forged through their journey. The princesses, once divided by pride, became champions of a united galaxy. Erik, the human warrior they had once scorned, became a symbol of hope. Though their bond was forged by fate, it endured by choice. The princesses returned to their empires not as rulers bound by tradition but as leaders inspired by a shared purpose. And Erik, forever changed, found a place among the stars, carrying with him the legacy of a human who had inherited not just power but the trust of those who had once laughed at his kind. The galaxy, now free from the shadow of the Umbraxus, found itself at a crossroads. The battle had shaken old alliances and forged new ones, yet the scars of mistrust and centuries-long rivalries remained. Erik Kane, once a mere soldier from a backwater planet, stood as a unifying figure, but the question lingered: could peace endure? The princesses, each returning to their respective empires, faced immediate challenges. Their peoples were not so easily swayed by tales of unity and human valor. To many, the idea of their regal leaders being bound to an alien was a humiliation. Whispers of rebellion and dissent rippled through the ranks of their advisors and generals. For Lurilia, the crystalline courts of Zither hummed with discord. Her subjects, beings of logic and light, struggled to reconcile their leader's submission to a flesh-and-blood human. Lurilia, however, had changed. In Erik's stubborn refusal to bow to her superiority, she had learned that strength came in forms beyond her rigid understanding. Standing before her council, she declared, "The crown chose not weakness, but wisdom. And if we are wise, we will not let our pride blind us to what the galaxy needs." Ryvala faced a different challenge among the Vierzon. Her people, warriors to their core, viewed her bond to Erik as a betrayal of their might. "How can one without fangs lead you?" a warlord roared during a public assembly. Ryvala, never one to back down from a challenge, met him in combat. She defeated him swiftly but spared his life, a rarity among her kind. "I follow him not because he is strong in body," she announced to the gathering, "but because his strength lies in uniting us. Together, we are invincible." Kareth returned to the vast oceans of Alora, where her psychic people were torn. Her bond to Erik, a being with limited telepathic ability, was incomprehensible to many. Yet Kareth, who had always been an enigma even to her own kind, spoke with clarity. "I have seen his mind," she said. "It is not without flaw, but it is unyielding. He does not command us, he inspires us. And that is a power no Aloran can deny." Elaris, meanwhile, soared back to the skies of Zephyrion. Her people, ethereal and detached, were the least willing to acknowledge Erik's worth. To them, he was a fleeting creature of flesh, unworthy of their eternal winds. But Elaris, who had seen his dreams and shared in his struggles, spoke to her people with conviction. "He dreams as we do," she said. "Not of what is, but of what could be. And it is dreams that will carry us forward." Erik himself had no time to rest. Though he had no desire for leadership, the galaxy's eyes turned to him. Delegations from countless worlds sought his counsel, and disputes over territory and resources threatened to undo the fragile unity they had built. Erik, guided by the lessons he had learned from the princesses, worked tirelessly to mediate conflicts. He knew he couldn't solve every problem, but he also knew that symbols mattered. And he, as much as he resisted the idea, had become a symbol. The artifact, the crown of dominion, remained with him, its power a constant reminder of the responsibility he bore. Yet Erik refused to wield it for conquest. Instead, he used it sparingly, amplifying the voices of those who sought peace and silencing those who sought to exploit chaos. Months turned to years, and the galaxy began to heal. Trade routes reopened, cultural exchanges flourished, and once isolated species began to share their knowledge and traditions. The princesses, now seen as heroes, played crucial roles in maintaining the alliance. They often reunited with Erik, their bond evolving from one of obligation to genuine friendship, and in some ways, something deeper. One such reunion occurred on a neutral world where the five of them gathered to celebrate the anniversary of their victory over the Umbraxus. The air was light, filled with laughter and shared memories. Ryvala teased Erik about his weak human reflexes, only for him to remind her how often his strategies had saved her life. Lurilia shared stories of the advancements her people had made in energy technology, while Kareth recounted visions of possible futures, her cryptic smile hinting at secrets she chose not to share. Elaris, ever the observer, simply smiled as she watched the group, her starlit eyes reflecting the glow of a nearby nebula. As the evening wore on, Erik found himself reflecting on how far they had come. These princesses, once his enemies and scornful critics, had become his closest allies. They had taught him as much as he had taught them, and together, they had reshaped the galaxy. But Erik knew their work was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and peace was fragile. There would always be new threats, new challenges. Yet he felt a quiet confidence, not because of the artifact's power, but because of the bonds they had forged. As the stars shone above them, Erik raised a glass. "To the galaxy," he said. "To what we've built, and what we'll keep fighting for." The princesses joined him, their voices ringing out in harmony. And in that moment, under the endless expanse of the cosmos, they were not just leaders or warriors. They were a family, unlikely, imperfect, but bound by a shared purpose that would light the galaxy for generations to come. The celebrations that night were brief, as the galaxy's challenges rarely allowed for long reprieves. In the weeks that followed, news reached Erik and the princesses of rising tensions on the outer rim of the galactic core. Fringe systems, feeling neglected in the new order, had begun to stir with rebellion. It wasn't mere dissatisfaction, it was the first sign of a brewing storm. Erik and the princesses convened aboard the Unity's Flame, a flagship constructed with technologies contributed by all four empires. Its halls reflected the blend of their cultures: crystalline accents from the Zithari, flowing aquatic designs from the Aulorans, ferocious artistry from the Virzon, and the ethereal light of Zephyrian craftsmanship. The ship stood as a testament to what they had achieved together. "What do we know about these rebels?" Erik asked, standing before a central display that showed the outer rim territories. Kareth stepped forward, her aquatic form shifting in its fluid grace. "Their minds are fractured. Fear and desperation drive them. They see the Alliance as a threat to their autonomy." Ryvala slammed a clawed hand on the table. "Then we remind them who holds the power. A swift strike, and they'll fall in line." "No," Erik said firmly, meeting her fiery gaze. "If we respond with force, we'll only confirm their fears. We need to show them that this alliance is for everyone, not just the core worlds." Lurilia's crystalline light flickered as she spoke. "Words alone won't pacify them. If they see weakness, they'll exploit it. We must balance diplomacy with strength." Elaris, ever the voice of calm, folded her shimmering wings as she considered the map. "Perhaps there's a middle path. A delegation. We go to them, not as rulers, but as equals seeking understanding." Erik nodded. "Exactly. We show them that we're willing to listen, but we won't let chaos spread." The decision made, the group prepared to journey to the outer rim. The princesses, despite their lingering pride, agreed to accompany Erik in this delicate mission. Together, they represented the heart of the alliance, and their presence would carry weight. The journey was long, and as they traveled, Erik took time to learn more about the princesses' cultures. In the evenings, they shared stories of their worlds, traditions, and struggles. Erik listened intently, understanding that these connections were what truly held the alliance together. Upon arriving in the Outer Rim, they found a coalition of leaders from various systems, each representing a faction with its grievances. The rebels were wary, their faces hardened by years of feeling overlooked. Erik, flanked by the princesses, approached them with measured confidence. "I'm not here to dictate terms," Erik began, his voice steady. "I'm here to listen. Tell us what you need." The rebel leaders were taken aback by his humility. They had expected threats or ultimatums, not open ears. Over the next several days, Erik and the princesses worked tirelessly to address their concerns. Lurilia proposed sharing advanced technologies to boost the Outer Rim's economy. Ryvala offered to train their militias, providing them the strength they craved. Kareth used her psychic abilities to root out hidden agitators who sought to exploit the unrest for their gain. Elaris, with her innate grace, brokered compromises that had seemed impossible. Erik acted as the glue that held it all together, weaving their efforts into a cohesive plan. His human perspective, unburdened by the centuries of rivalries and politics that weighed on the princesses, allowed him to see solutions they might have missed. In the end, the Outer Rim systems agreed to join the alliance fully, their leaders swayed not just by Erik's arguments but by the sincerity of the princesses' efforts. It was a victory born of unity, not force. As they departed the Outer Rim, Erik reflected on the growing strength of their alliance. Yet he knew their journey was far from over. Each success brought new challenges, and the galaxy's peace was always precarious. One evening aboard the Unity's Flame, Erik stood alone on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. The artifact, the Crown of Dominion, rested on a pedestal nearby, its soft glow illuminating the room. He felt the weight of its power and the responsibility it represented. "You're brooding again," came a familiar voice. Erik turned to see Elaris, her wings shimmering faintly in the starlight. "Just thinking," Erik replied with a small smile. "Every time we solve one problem, another seems to pop up." "That is the way of the galaxy," Elaris said, stepping beside him. "But we face these challenges together. And together, we endure." Erik nodded, her words a comfort. "I couldn't do this without you. All of you. And we could not do it without you," Elaris said, her tone soft. "You've taught us more than you know, Erik Kane." As the stars stretched endlessly before them, Erik felt a quiet resolve. The galaxy was vast, its challenges immense, but he was no longer alone. With the princesses by his side, he believed they could overcome anything. And so, their journey continued, 5 unlikely allies, bound by fate, reshaping the stars one step at a time. Together, they carried the hopes of a galaxy, forging a legacy that would echo for generations. In the months following the resolution of the Outer Rim Rebellion, the alliance began to stabilize further. Trade routes flourished, cultures intertwined, and what had once been a fragile truce now blossomed into a burgeoning era of cooperation. Yet, deep in the void, something stirred, a whisper of ancient power long forgotten. Erik and the princesses were summoned to a gathering of the Galactic Conclave, a newly formed body representing the major factions of the galaxy. This council served as a beacon of hope, but its foundation was still shaky. Rivalries persisted, and old grudges often flared during debates. Erik's presence as the mediator often quelled disputes, but tensions always simmered beneath the surface. At the conclave, a discovery was brought to light, a derelict station on the edge of the galaxy, emanating a strange, pulsing energy. Scouts who ventured near reported vivid dreams, or nightmares, of a golden age that ended in ruin. Scholars theorized that the station belonged to the Predecessors, an ancient civilization believed to have shaped the galaxy millennia ago. Its reawakening was met with awe and fear. The conclave debated fiercely over what to do. Some factions wanted to harness the station's power, while others feared it might be a trap. Erik, as usual, sought a balanced approach. If it holds the knowledge of the Predecessors, it could benefit everyone, he argued. But we can't let greed blind us. We approach carefully and together. The princesses supported his plan, though each had her own concerns. Lurilia was eager to study the station's crystalline structures, hoping to unlock new energy sources. Ryvala, ever the warrior, wanted to secure it against any potential threats. Kareth was intrigued by the psychic echoes it seemed to emit, while Elaris feared the station's power could disrupt the delicate harmony they had worked so hard to build. The Conclave agreed to send a small team, Erik, the Princesses, and a contingent of scientists and soldiers from various factions. The journey to the station was tense. Erik could feel the weight of expectation pressing down on him. The crown of dominion, though dormant, pulsed faintly as they approached, as if reacting to the station's presence. When they arrived, the station loomed like a ghostly monolith, its massive spires reaching out into the void. It was both beautiful and ominous, its surface etched with runes that shimmered faintly. The team docked carefully, stepping into the silent, cold halls of the ancient structure. The station was alive in its own way. Lights flickered on as they moved through its corridors, and the air hummed with an energy that made the hair on Erik's neck stand on end. Kareth paused often, her eyes glowing faintly as she listened to whispers only she could hear. "They are memories," she said at one point. "Fragments of a civilization lost. But there is something else. Something watching." Her words set everyone on edge. As they ventured deeper, they discovered a central chamber dominated by a massive, pulsating core of light. The crown of dominion on Erik's hip began to glow brighter, resonating with the core. He stepped closer, feeling a pull he couldn't resist. The princesses surrounded him, each ready to intervene if necessary. When Erik touched the core, his mind was flooded with visions. He saw the predecessors in their prime, beings of incredible power and wisdom. They had united the galaxy in an age of prosperity but had fallen to their own hubris. Their greatest creation, the station, had been meant to safeguard their legacy, but it had also been their undoing. The vision shifted, showing Erik a galaxy consumed by darkness. A voice, deep and resonant, echoed in his mind, "Beware. The cycle begins anew." Erik pulled away, gasping for breath. The room was silent, the core dimming as if retreating into itself. The princesses looked at him with concern. "What did you see?" Elaris asked, her voice steady but her starlit eyes betraying worry. "A warning," Erik said, his voice hoarse. "The predecessors fell because they reached too far. And whatever destroyed them, it's still out there." The team returned to the conclave with their findings, sparking a new wave of debates and fears. Erik's warning, however, carried weight. The galaxy had to prepare, not for war, but for survival. Over the following years, the Alliance redoubled its efforts to strengthen its unity. Research into the predecessors' technology advanced cautiously, and defenses were bolstered. The princesses, now fully embracing their roles as guardians of the galaxy, worked tirelessly alongside Erik to guide their people through this new era. Despite the looming shadow of an ancient threat, Erik and the princesses found solace in their bond. Their shared experiences had forged something unbreakable, and their trust in one another became the foundation upon which the galaxy's future was built. As Erik stood once more on the observation deck of the Unity's flame, staring into the endless expanse, he felt a mixture of hope and trepidation. The galaxy's challenges were far from over, but he knew that together, with the princesses and the united peoples of the stars, they could face whatever came next. The stars stretched endlessly before him, a reminder of both the vastness of the galaxy and the endless potential for its future. And as long as there were battles to fight, peace to forge, and bonds to strengthen, Erik Kane and his unlikely allies would stand ready. The years that followed were a mix of challenge and triumph. The Alliance's initial cohesion gave way to occasional fractures, but Erik and the princesses worked tirelessly to hold it together. The warning from the predecessor station loomed over them like a distant storm, but they refused to succumb to fear. Instead, they prepared the galaxy for what was to come, uniting, rebuilding, and innovating. The ancient threat revealed itself sooner than expected. It began with faint tremors in the fabric of spacetime. Remote systems reported entire stars dimming inexplicably, their light swallowed by a growing void. Then came the first encounter. A scouting fleet vanished without a trace, its final transmission a garbled scream and an image of writhing shadows. They were called the Eclipsed, remnants of whatever had consumed the predecessors. These entities were not beings of flesh but living voids, feeding on the energy of stars and the life around them. They moved like a plague, darkening everything in their path. The Galactic Conclave, for all its debates and divisions, finally united in purpose. Erik stood at the center of their war effort, his voice calm and resolute as he led a galaxy to defend itself against annihilation. The princesses became his closest advisors and commanders, each lending their unique strengths. Lurilia's brilliance crafted weapons capable of piercing the Eclipsed's unnatural defenses. Ryvala's indomitable spirit rallied warriors from every faction, turning old rivals into comrades. Caretha's psychic abilities allowed her to glimpse the enemy's moves before they made them, giving the alliance a crucial edge. Elaris, with her serenity, inspired hope even in the darkest moments, guiding negotiations and morale with a steady hand. The final battle came at the edge of the galactic core, where the Eclipsed had begun to consume a massive star, threatening to destabilize the entire region. The combined fleets of the Alliance faced off against an overwhelming force, their ships forming a glittering web of defiance against the encroaching void. Erik, aboard the Unity's flame, held the crown of dominion. Its ancient power resonated with the core of the Predecessor station, which had been brought into battle as a last resort. He knew what needed to be done. "We can't just fight them," Erik said, addressing the princesses in the command chamber. "They're endless. But the station, it's a piece of the same power that created them. If I can connect it to the crown, I might be able to seal them away." "But at what cost?" Elaris asked, her starlit eyes searching his. "I don't know," Erik admitted. "But if we don't stop them now, there won't be anything left." The princesses exchanged glances, unspoken understanding passing between them. Then Ryvala gripped his shoulder. "You won't face it alone. We'll be right there." Erik nodded, feeling a surge of determination. Together, they activated the station, channeling its energy through the crown. As the battle raged outside, the void of the Eclipsed began to react, pulling toward the station like a tide receding into a singularity. The strain was immense. Erik felt his very essence being pulled into the crown, the weight of its power threatening to consume him. But then, one by one, the princesses reached out. Their bonds, formed through conflict, trust, and love, fortified him. He wasn't alone. Their shared strength became a beacon that resonated through the galaxy. With a final surge, the station released a blinding wave of energy, enveloping the Eclipsed. The void writhed and screamed, then collapsed into itself, leaving only silence. The battle was won. In the aftermath, the galaxy mourned its losses but celebrated its survival. The unity forged in the face of destruction held strong, evolving into a true partnership among the stars. The Galactic Conclave became a symbol of hope, its diverse members working together to rebuild. Erik, now regarded as a hero across countless worlds, found peace at last. He chose to step away from the spotlight, handing leadership of the Conclave to those better suited to politics. He and the princesses returned to the quiet of a neutral world, a place where they could reflect on all they had endured and built. Their bond, once forged out of necessity, had deepened into something unshakable. Erik was no longer a mere warrior, and the princesses were no longer distant rulers. Together, they had become a family, a constellation bound not by blood, but by choice and shared purpose. One evening, under a sky filled with stars, Erik sat with the princesses around a crackling fire. Lurilia crafted delicate crystal figures in the flames, Ryvala sharpened her blade with a grin, Caretha hummed a soothing tune that echoed in their minds, and Elaris gazed at the stars, her wings shimmering softly. Erik looked around at them and smiled. "We've been through hell and back, haven't we? And we'll face it again if we must," Ryvala said, smirking. "Though next time, let's hope it's less dramatic." Caretha tilted her head, her eyes twinkling. "The future holds many paths. But one thing is certain, we will face it together." Elaris reached out, her voice soft but firm. "You showed us what was possible, Erik. You gave us hope. And now, the galaxy has a future." As they laughed and shared stories, the stars above seemed to shine brighter, as if reflecting the unity and hope they had brought to the galaxy. The ancient threat was gone, the alliance was stronger than ever, and Erik Kane, once an unassuming human soldier, had found his place among the stars. Together with the princesses, he had not just survived the storm but ensured that the light of the galaxy would endure for generations to come. And for the first time in years, Erik felt at peace.